2025 NFL Combine is officially in the books. There were a number of prospects who came out and tested really well. Some of the best of all time, like Shamar Stewart, like Jahad Campbell, Landon Jackson in that conversation. There are a number of prospects who tested way better than expected, like Matthew Golden coming out and running a 4.29 in the 40. There were also some players that disappointed, but today we're going to be talking about some of the risers out of this past week in Indianapolis. And let's jump in position by position, talking about some of the biggest guys who performed the best. We'll start with Bashal Tutin here from Virginia Tech. Came in at 5'9", 206 and tested it really well. Ran 4.32 in the 40 with a sub 1.5 10-yard split, a vertical jump over 40 inches with a broad jump close to 11 feet. Now, the agility testing wasn't quite as good. In this video a lot, I'm going to be referencing at MathBomb on Twitter, Kent Lee Platt, the inventor of this relative athletic score. Basically, you can see these guys compared to every other position in the history of prospects since 1987. So Bashal Tutin ranked 53 out of 1909 running backs from 1987 to 2025. You can see the different percentiles here. So a 4.38 40 for him is 9.83, meaning it's the 98th percentile for 40-yard dash. Now, of course, this is being compared to every running back. So weighing 206 pounds is only officially in the 47th percentile or just about. However, 206 pounds is actually pretty good for a running back. Typically, you're going to see a lot of those guys floating around 200 pounds, sometimes maybe even a little bit less than that. But it's the guys that are above 200 and 205 pounds and closer to 210, like Tutin's playing weight was listed at Virginia Tech, that is actually your bell cow RB1 types. You are seeing heavier running backs in this class, like Amarion Hampton, who looked great in the on-field drills. I'll mention him here. And, of course, a player we'll talk about in just a little bit, Quinshon Judkins, who is obviously significantly heavier than Bashal Tutin. And those guys, you know, are going to score a lot better here in the height weight department to boost that composite grade for the overall size. But as you can see here, his short shuttle ended up testing quite poorly. I think it was the slowest of all running backs at the combine with a 4.41 in the 20-yard short shuttle, which is just the 35th percentile. Still a great week for him. Briefly mentioned Quinshon Judkins. He absolutely needs to be here. 6 foot 221. And of course, his production went down in 2024 because he was playing with Travion Henderson. When he was at Ole Miss, this was the guy that was the guy. Bell cow, RB1, kind of turned into more of a short yardage guy at Ohio State. But he's still a really good prospect and tested way better than I expected. I didn't think he was going to be terrible athletically, but I didn't think he was going to be as elite as he ended up being. Sub 4.5 in the 40, 1.51 10-yard split, very good, very explosive, and that is backed up by his explosiveness testing, vert at 38.5, broad jump at 11 feet. Did not participate in any of the agility testing, the 3-coner, the 20-yard shuttle, so of course we can't really factor any of that in, but that's near the 99th percentile for athletes at running back. 221 pounds is 81st percentile for weight among running backs. And of course, his explosiveness testing was absolutely elite. This was a really good day for Quinshon. And in a stacked running back class, he's likely to be one of the first 5 off the board. Not sure I can say the same about DJ Giddens, but this is a player I like a lot. Another with very good overall size, 6 foot 212, and tested great. The tape is good too. He's a willing blocker. I really like DJ Giddens as a prospect. I'm not sure he's ever going to be quite an RB1. You know, so many teams are just running back by committee now. We see so few teams with the guy and no one else really gets many carries. There are a couple teams like that, but mostly it's a running back rotation. You know, you'll have different guys playing first and second down versus third down. And depending on the down and distance, that will change as well. But Giddens came out and tested fantastically. 4.43 40 with a 1.53 10-yard split. Vertical jump near 40 inches. And again, a 10-10 broad jump. I think is the exact same we saw from Bashal Tutin. The 20-yard shuttle at 4.33 is not exactly spectacular, just 52nd percentile. But everything else was great for DJ Gittins, 43rd out of 1,909 running backs from 87 to 2025. That's super elite explosiveness with the jumps. Also, quite good size, and obviously ran very, very well in the 40. A 4.43 at 212 pounds is really, really good. Although I do think it's important not to overreact to the 40 one way or another at running back, especially. It doesn't really matter as much. It's more about patience, vision, contact balance, quickness. Foot quickness is super important, and that's going to be a lot of the agility testing. And that's kind of where Taj Brooks stood out to me. And this is a guy who was really productive at Texas Tech as the lead back. This guy was getting a lot of carries per game, and I didn't know that he was going to come out and test all that well. But at 5'9", 214, to run close to 4.5 in the 40, the 1.56 10 wasn't exactly anything special. The vert at 35 inches was pretty good, 10-foot broad jump, but the agility is where Taj Brooks really stood out. And he's a shorter back, so I guess you'd expect that a little bit. But I don't know, he's built like a bowling ball at 5'9", close to 215. Didn't really think he was going to be all that quick, but a 6.9 second three cone, a short shuttle close to 4 seconds in general. These were really, really good, as you can see, backed up by the 96th percentile short shuttle, 88th percentile or just about three cone. And again, I don't think his overall speed was too bad. You know, it's 75th percentile about on average, and came in at 214 pounds, which is plenty big enough. So you take a guy that was, likely going to be an NFL short yardage back probably if he was going to make a roster and participate. And now, okay, he's got elite quickness and agility. You wonder if there's a little bit something more to Taj Brooks. Moving on to some receivers, I skipped quarterback. I didn't like any. I don't really know that. No one really even tested either. I don't think anyone was particularly impressive throwing the ball. So just straight to running backs and receivers. Jalen Royals, 6', 205. He has pretty good tape. I didn't really expect him to test all that crazy well, but then he ran 4.42 in the 40 with an elite 1.49 10-yard split. For perspective, a 1.49 10-yard split was the fastest of anyone at the combine this year. It's as fast as Xavier Worthy was in his record-breaking 40 last year. These are projected splits, so these numbers would actually even be better for Jalen Royals. A 4.42 40 would be still about 92nd percentile, but the 1.49 10-yard split, which was not factored into this exact image, is absolutely elite. That is, again, the fastest time of anybody at the combine this year, and one of the best 10-yard splits that we've ever seen. There were 5 players that ripped off a 1.49 10, Facial Tootin, and then some other players we're going to talk about in a little bit. But if you look in the top performers all time for 10-yard split, 1.49 is pretty elite company. Obviously, if you can hold that over a long period of time, you're going to come away with a pretty incredible 40. And you see some of the fastest players we've ever seen. Chris Johnson with a 1.4 flat 10-yard split. Absolutely the most explosive player in the history of testing here, which is incredible. I didn't realize Malcolm Mitchell tested quite this well, but all right. I also do want to mention with the running backs, we didn't see Dylan Sampson do much. Apparently he was having an injury that held him back a little bit, but he went in the on-field drills and looked really, really good overall. I thought he was especially quick with his feet and, of course, caught the ball pretty well. So Dylan Sampson didn't see much from him, but from what we did see in the on-field drills, he looked great. How about Isaac Tisla, though, out of Arkansas? 6'4", 214, and then ripped a 4.43 in the 40 with a 1.51 10-yard split verdict near 40 inches. He ranked 11th out of 3,400 receivers from 87 to 2025. That's a 997 RAS score unofficial. But wow, this was an incredible day for Tisla. 99th percentile. Again, this is the 11th most athletic receiver via RAS since 1987. That's with guys like Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson. This was unbelievable. Came in 6'3.5", more than 6'4", which is still very elite. Ran very elite. The agility testing for his size was actually super elite. It was 95th percentile short shuttle, 82nd percentile three cone, and obviously the explosiveness was incredible. It's not like his agility was All time great. The short shuttle was really good, but for his size especially, it's unbelievable. And how about Matthew Golden from Texas? I thought he would be fairly athletic. I didn't think it would be anything close to this. He didn't do the vert, didn't do the broad, any agility testing, nothing like that. But he came out, he ran a 40, and he ran an incredible 40 in the 4.2s, faster significantly than Isaiah Bond, who I thought was going to, if anyone was going to run 4.2, it was going to be Isaiah Bond here from the Texas receiving corps. But oh my goodness, Matthew Golden, 4.29 with a 1.49 10-yard split. That's the same 10-yard split as Xavier Worthy from a year ago, where he set the 40-yard dash record. Obviously built up more speed over that run. But to run in the 4.2s, this was the fastest 40 of any offensive player at the Combine this year. I think the only guy who ran faster was Maxwell Hairston at a 4.28. Matthew Golden, unbelievable. Did not qualify for an RAS as he didn't do anything. Obviously, the size is not good, but that run in the 40 is as good as you're ever going to see. I included Dante Thornton in my Combine standout prediction video, if you want to call it that. But even I couldn't have predicted just how well he tested. 6'5", 205, and ran a 4.3 flat 40. I can't even explain how ridiculous this is. And you might say, oh, he's 6'5", he's just a long strider. Probably took him a little while to get up to that. But he had a 1.51 10-yard split, which is also incredible. 33-inch vert isn't, world-beating necessarily. But when you're 6'5", and can post a vert like that, you're gonna be able to go up and get the football with the best of them. Yes, it's only 38th percentile for verts among wide receivers, but when you factor in his size, just under 6'5", 205, broad was very, very good. And then, of course, the speed was otherworldly. At 4.3 flat, he was 100th of a second away from running in the 4.2s at 6'5", 205. Wild. Jalen Ole also had a really good day, and so did all of Iowa State whenever they performed, either at receiver or DB or offensive tackle, to be honest. But can't include anybody. Jaden Higgins, a lot of guys tested well, but are not going to be in this video. Jalen Ole was someone that really stood out in the on-field workout as well. Hands are a bit small, sub 9 inches. Arms aren't anything crazy. But as a slot receiver, Knoll has a lot of value. Ran in the 4.3s with a very good 10-yard split. But the vert, the broad jump, these were ridiculous. Nearly 42 inches on the vert for Jalen Knoll. A broad jump at 11.2, also ripped off 23 reps of 225 in the bench. Agility testing was quite good. 80th percentile short shuttle, 86th percentile 3-cone. Obviously, the speed at 4.39 is incredible, and the jumping is among the best we've ever seen. His size is what's holding his score back, but this is still top 150 all-time out of about 3,500 receivers since 1987. What a day for Jalen Knoll. The only tight end I'm including is Terrence Ferguson, 6'5", close to 250 out of Oregon. A lot of tight ends just kind of ripped off the same. Like, no one was super elite in any one way. Ferguson, I think, was clearly the best. And I thought he was going to come out and test fairly well. He is one of the best tight ends in this class. He was a former highly thought of recruit going to Oregon. And then his size to run 4.63 with a 1.55 10, vert near 40 inches. He had a really, really good day. Gunnar Helm, I thought was going to test fairly well. Sprained his ankle and still ended up running low 4.8, which is pretty impressive. Obviously, Harold Fannin didn't go out and do anything crazy, which, if you actually watched Harold Fannin, not that surprising. He's more of the contact balance, tough to bring down guy. He's not really explosive or fast. He ran low 4.7, which is, it's fine speed, but at 240 pounds, it's not super impressive. But yeah, Terrence Ferguson, he had a really, really good day overall. And with the 9.57 unofficial RAS score, you can see how he compares to all tight ends. Obviously a little bit light because this is being included with true blocking inline tight ends that are 260 plus pounds. And obviously 247 is a little while away from that. But yeah, really good performance overall. Let's see if I can get one with his vert in there. This is the updated RAS, and it looks really, really good. 98th percentile vert among tight ends. Boosts his score up to a 9.81. That's 98th percentile among tight ends. Very good. Can't really talk about impressive combine performances without Georgia center Jared Wilson posting one of the best 40-yard dashes in the history of the combine for offensive linemen. And he didn't do it at sub 300, came in at 310 pounds. He's likely a day 2 pick, and he solidified that. Has the size to potentially play guard as well. Jared Wilson is a very, very solid prospect. 172 10-yard split, which is very good. A vert over 30 inches and a short shuttle 4.56. As you can see here, this is one of the best performances of all time. This ranks second out of 622 centers from 87 to 2025. Elite explosiveness, very good size overall, and then obviously super elite speed, which is not the end-all be-all. It's more about the 10 and 20-yard splits. These are projected here, but you can see, the 10-yard split was about right there anyway. This was an incredible day. He's going to go high. Top 100, I think, is all but guaranteed. And Eli Cox from Kentucky had a great day as well. Was not someone that I had watched going into the combine, which is true about, a decent number of these guys. But even though I have not watched Eli Cox yet, it's making me interested in at least looking at his movement skills because he tested really well. 5-second 40, 175 10-yard split, a vert over 30 inches, broad jump over 9 feet. This ended up looking really, really good for his RAS score. Again, that's at MathBomb on Twitter. Kent Lee Platt. Elite explosiveness, elite speed overall, and his size is, again, fairly good. A little bit over 6'4", 306. Yeah, really good performance. He does have notably short arms. Oregon State's Joshua Gray came in at 31 3/8, which is obviously going to eliminate him from any type of tackle conversation if anyone was trying to have it already. This is a guard, or maybe my point, potentially a center. He looked really, really good in the on-field drills and then tested well also. Again, vert over 30, which it seems with all the guys that I'm talking about, it doesn't seem that weird, but that's a really, really good jump. 173 10-yard split is very good. A 504 40-yard dash. It's about 94th percentile among offensive guards. 103rd all-time out of just under 1,600 guards from 87 to 2025. Again, great speed and explosiveness, and then good size overall. A little bit light at sub 300, and that lets him, move as well as he does. He might not be a fit for every scheme, but a zone run offense that can really utilize his movement skills, I think Joshua Gray is going to fit in and have starter potential. Armand Membu came out and checked like every box imaginable. Came in at 6'4", 332 with 33.5-inch arms. All quite good. The arm length, you'd like to see at like 34, but 33.5 is going to be good enough to let him stick a tackle if a team wants to do that. Obviously could be a plus guard given his incredible size and movement ability. But man, Membu absolutely tore up the combine. His movement skills will let him stick a tackle for sure if a team wants to do that. Ran 4.91 in the 40, which is incredible, especially at 332 pounds, and was the loudest 40 I've ever heard. A 174 10-yard split. A vertical jump at 34 inches and a broad jump at 9.7. Also posted 31 reps in the bench. Just an incredible performance. Really one of the best that we've ever seen. Since at least 2003, there have been 4 offensive linemen at the combine who have been more than 315 pounds, who jumped more than 30 inches with a 40-yard dash under 5. It's Trent Williams, future Hall of Fame left tackle, Tristan Wirfs, who is trending towards being a future Hall of Fame tackle, and Armand Membu and Will Campbell, who we'll talk about in just a little bit. What a day overall. This was just an incredible performance. Obviously, the height comes in pretty poor among tackles, but it's not the end-all, be-all. Being 6'8 or 6'9 doesn't necessarily help you play tackle. It's really more about the arm length that comes with that size, but usually the real tall guys don't have the same movement skills. So the fact that Membu comes out and does as well as he does testing and looks as good as he does in the on-field drills, he's got a real chance to be the first offensive lineman off the board. This total day ranks 17 out of about 1,400 offensive tackles since '87. He is a stud. He came in at about a top 10 player, and he might not get out of the top 10 when the NFL draft comes around late April. And you can say a lot of the same things for Will Campbell. I had him in my video talking about these guys are going to perform really well at the combine. He came in at 6'6", 320 with 32 and 5/8 inch arms. They are short. They are. We've talked about it the entire time. He will not meet the thresholds to play offensive tackle for a number of teams in the league, but not necessarily all of them. And I think some of that can be backed up by his super elite athletic testing. We'll see what that says via his RAS score in a minute. But I'll say, same thing for Armand Membou. 4 offensive linemen at the combine, maybe ever, have been more than 315 pounds with sub 540s and more than 30-inch vertical jumps. Will Campbell, Armand Membou, Trent Williams, Tristan Wirfs. Super, super elite 176 10-yard split with a broad jump at 9.5 feet or close to it at least. And this was a really, really good performance. He boosted his stock in terms of proving how good of an athlete he is. The arm length absolutely hurts. It's quite poor for an offensive tackle prospect, but everything else is really, really good for an offensive tackle. So Campbell, he's got a chance to take a tackle. I think teams, at least some teams, probably whoever drafts him, will try him at tackle first. He might end up being a guard. Look at Peter Skoronski, but he's got a chance to take a tackle. His elite athleticism is only going to help him in that department. All right, let's talk about the star of the show, the star of day one, Shemar Stewart from Texas A&M. Came in 34 and 1/8 inch arms at 6'5", 267. Dropped so much weight. This guy was listed at 290 with his playing weight. And okay, is he an interior defensive lineman at the next level? You know, penetrating 3 tech that can really get after the QB in a hurry and also a line on the edge. Maybe if you want him to, you know, he can come in on first and second or just run downs in general and set the edge. And then on third and long, just third downs in general, come in and play interior defensive line and get after the quarterback and be a real problem for interior offensive linemen. Well, he came in at the Senior Bowl at 281. You're like, okay, he's a bigger edge. This kind of starts to limit his potential as an interior defensive lineman, but still dominates in the one-on-ones off the edge. But then shows up at the combine even lighter than that, 267. Now, at that weight, there's no real chance of him being an interior defensive lineman. He would have to add significant weight, you would think. Like, there are some guys who've been able to handle, like, close to that. Like, Aaron Donald, I think, played in that realm because he was just a freak. But he's also built lower to the ground, played with incredible leverage. But I think Shemar Stewart's home is just going to be on the edge now. But, oh my goodness, his testing was insane. Sub 4, 640. 158 10-yard split. For perspective, anything at like 1.6 is really, really, really good. And that's if you're 245 pounds even. He was 267. Anything sub 164, 165, 163 in that realm, also very, very good. And so he brought that range down a ton. Vert near 40 or at 40 inches. Broad jump near 11 feet. Incredible. This is an unofficial 10. It might have been moved down to a 999, but this was the most athletic performance or just about in the history of defensive end prospects. Elite height, very good weight, and then elite speed, elite explosiveness. Some of the best jumps we've ever seen from a defensive end. What a day. And Landon Jackson was great too. I think similar overall numbers to Shemar Stewart, just not quite the same speed. 6'6", 264, another guy who dropped weight. He was listed at, I think, close to 280. It came in, tried to test really well, and did. 4'6", 840 is insane. 165 10-yard split is very, very good at that size. With a 40.5-inch vert, 10.9 broad jump. RAS score has him about 99th percentile among defensive ends. We knew he was going to test pretty well, but this was a really, really, really good day. Also knew James Pierce was going to test really well. Had him in my standouts video. And I think Landon Jackson as well. And Shemar Stewart. But James Pierce, we knew he was going to come out and run well. I thought he had a chance to run in the 4.4s. And he did. 4.47 at 6'5", 245, 156 10-yard split. The vert was unimpressive at 31 inches, which was a little bit surprising for a guy who's as fast and explosive overall as he is, 10.3 in the broad. As you can see here, the broad jump was 92nd percentile. That's a great jump. But the vert, 43rd percentile. Obviously, the weight's not very good at just 245 pounds among defensive ends. You compared him to outside linebackers, you know, that number is going to go up quite a bit in terms of percentile. However, the speed would go down a little bit. The explosiveness would certainly go down a little bit as well. But overall, really good performance to come out and say, hey, I'm every bit of the athlete that I look to be, that I seem to be. It's only 245 pounds, but offers you tremendous athleticism. I think Donovan Ezaraku just comes in and continues to check every box you could ask for. 6'2.5", 248, not really that big, right? As a defensive end, right? That's light, that's small, that's short. But for a 3-4 outside linebacker, you're less worried about 248 pounds and 6'2.5", especially when he has 34-inch arms. That's great length for the trenches. That's really good. He didn't run a 40, but everything else was really good, especially his 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle. If you look at his short shuttle compared to anybody at the combine, it was fairly impressive, right? In that top 10 range at a 4.19, right there with different, corners and receivers. But among defensive ends, it was by far the best short shuttle at 4.19. Braden Swinson was the closest, who also I thought would test well and didn't run a 40 or anything like that. But it was by far the best short shuttle. And then if you look at the 3-cone as well, by far the best 3-cone at 6.94 seconds. Barron Sorrell was the closest, but not especially close. And then Braden Swinson, David Walker, but not especially close. Ezaraku was the only edge rusher sub 7 seconds. And among everyone at the combine, still very good overall. Right there with, Andrew Armstrong is kind of where he's been. Harold Fannin was pretty quick. Tez Johnson ended up testing really well in the agility testing and the explosiveness, even though he didn't run very well. But Ezaraku came out 96th percentile, short shuttle, and 3-cone. Very good vert and broad overall. Obviously not the biggest. Bench was pretty good and didn't run a 40. But with the arm length, with the agility, with the production, this screams he's going to be a first-round pick. We had some very impressive defensive linemen. CJ West, 6'1", 316. I mean, he's a run-stuffing nose tackle, and didn't expect him to perform quite this well. 4.95 in the 40 with a 1.73 10-yard split, a vert at 33 inches. This would be like elite testing for an offensive lineman, if you guys remember those scores that we were just watching. But yeah, 93rd percentile vert, 88th percentile 40, and 80th percentile 10-yard split at 316 pounds. We're going to get to another defensive tackle here in a little bit that was 288 and, posted similar numbers overall. A little bit better, of course, but at 316, I need you guys to know how impressive that is. And I'm not worried about the height if you're going to be a 0 or 1 tech, right? You can just play the leverage game. He's heavy enough to, strong enough to, and of course, super explosive, which was a little bit of a surprise that it was quite to this level for CJ West. But the tape is good. He's a good player. Darius Alexander continues to have a really good offseason. Came in at 6'4", 305 with 34-inch arms. 4.95 in the 40, 1.72 10-yard split. Vert at 31.5 inches. 28 bench press reps. Really good day for Darius Alexander. Of course, the 3-cone was pretty good. Better than the short shuttle. But given his height, weight, speed, and explosiveness, this is a super elite athlete for the position, and had a very good Senior Bowl, showed that he can rush off the edge as well. He's going to have some legitimate value. I think Darius Alexander is trending towards being a top 50 pick. He helped himself a lot, as did Zeke Biggers. 6'5.5", 321, near 35-inch arms. Already had incredible length, and then comes out and tests as well as he did at that size. It's a 5'1", 440 with a 1.74 10-yard split. Very good. And then to post a vert near 35 inches, this was a shocking shocking performance by Zeke Biggers, just because you don't see this at 321 pounds. It's a 97th percentile vert at 90th percentile weight, and obviously incredible height as well. This was a really, really good day, and then came out and ran pretty well at 321 pounds, no less. Great time for him. Great day overall for him. 37th out of 1,812 defensive tackles from 87 to 2025. And this was the lighter defensive tackle I was talking about earlier. Ty Robinson, 6'5", 288. Not really what I would consider to be a defensive tackle typically, although the arm length came in a little bit short at 32 and a quarter. Ty Robinson, though, think like Dean Lowry, right? Or something like that. You know, like a 5-tech, a 3-4 defensive end type, can move around the defensive line a little bit and get after the quarterback maybe a little bit. 4'8", 340 with a 1.71 10-yard split, vert at 33.5, and a broad jump near 10 feet. He did everything. 28 reps as well of 225. Just a fantastic performance overall. That's elite speed and explosiveness overall. The agility testing was mostly very good. And of course, the height, fantastic. The bench proved he's very strong. But of course, with shorter arms, you'd expect him to post a pretty good bench. It's easier to bench when your arms are shorter. And Ty Robinson, you know, had a very good overall performance. Only 288, so he's not going to be the same type of defensive tackle that CJ West is. But wow. Overall, just hard to find a flaw here. 30th all-time out of over 1,800 defensive tackles. Ty Robinson, good mid-round target. I'm really excited to ultimately see where Jahad Campbell goes. I love him as a player. 6'3", 235. Came in a little bit lighter than what I was expecting. I thought he'd be like 240 at least. He was listed at 245 at Alabama. Obviously wanted to come out and test really well. And the explosiveness really shows up on tape. Although, if he was a little bit heavier, I still think you start to talk about him as a pass rusher a lot. I think he's shown that ability. He's got real bend off the edge. He was recruited as a 5-star defensive end or edge out of Ariel, New Jersey to Alabama, and has made a transition to playing off the ball at Alabama. 4.52 in the 40. It's a 1.53 10-yard split. Freak athlete is Jahad Campbell. 10.7 broad jump. Looked great in the on-field drills as well. As you can see, no agility testing, no bench. But of what he did do, a 9.95 unofficial RAS here, 99th percentile among off-ball linebackers. And with his ability on the field, he's got a real chance to rush off the edge sometimes as well. We're not going to talk about Kane Medrano. He did test really well. I think he's a special teamer. He did test great, though, if you're curious about his performance. What a curious performance this was. Danny Stutzman. I didn't think he was going to test all that well. Came in at 233, which is a pretty good weight among modern linebackers. It's not like what it used to be, right? But that's a pretty good weight. And then to come out and run 4.52 in the 40 with a 1.55 10-yard split, vert at 34 inches. I was pretty blown away by Danny Stutzman. I don't think you see quite this level of speed, and it's really for him, it's like no wonder he didn't do the agility testing. He doesn't move that well in space, but it's still quite impressive to post a 40 like this in a 10-yard split as he had at 233 pounds running in a straight line. I think that's very, very impressive. The tape overall is good. It's just he's not that good in space. But the athleticism overall says that maybe he could learn to be. Again, I wonder what the agility testing would have said, but I think he boosted his stock quite a bit. As did Teddy Buchanan, also 6'2", 233. Ran 4.6 flat in the 40 with a sub 1.6 10-yard split. A vert at 40 inches broad, 10.5. Really, really good performance overall. 98th percentile 40-inch vert, 93rd percentile broad jump, and then the speed overall was more than good enough. He's got definitely decent enough size. His 26 reps of 225 is 90th percentile among linebackers. And then the weight, I know it's only 51st percentile, but this is from linebackers since 1987. Linebackers used to be, 240 plus, so this seems just about average. But among modern linebackers, obviously 233 is a little bit better with his ability to move in space and his overall explosiveness. 68th out of about 2,900 linebackers from 87 to 2025. Really, really good performance. Horns are back up for Jahdae Barron, one of my favorite Longhorns. He's a phenomenal player. The tape is fantastic, can play in zone, and I think now you're seeing he's athletic enough to play man as well. I do think his ultimate role is as a nickel. Came in a little bit under 5'11", with short arms at 29 and 5/8 inches. I think he's a nickel. I don't know that he's going to really be playing on the boundary in the NFL, but he's certainly athletic enough to. 4.3 940 really surprised me. I thought he'd be somewhere in the high to mid 4.4s, if that. 4.39 150 1.5 flat 10-yard split, and that's Xavier Worthy territory. He posted a 1.49 last year. Vert at 35 inches isn't anything crazy. Broad jump at 10.3 isn't anything crazy. But the fact that his tape is as good as it is, and then he comes out and runs 4.39, I think that did a lot to dispel some of the explosiveness and speed questions about Jahdae Barron. And the fastest 40 of anybody at the Combine was Kentucky's Maxwell Hairston, 5'11", with 31-inch arms. You think certainly big enough to stick on the boundary, where he is certainly athletic enough to. 4.28 40 with a 1.5 flat 10-yard split, vert near 40 inches, and a broad jump at 10 feet 9 inches. Maxwell Hairston had a great day in the drills as well, but elite explosiveness and obviously elite speed when you run 4.28. Hairston can fly. Was a little bit light though at 183, so you'd hope so. But even at 183, running 4.28 is pretty impossibly hard. We'll also talk about Keaton Crawford. I think he's a special teamer. He had a great day though. Hook'em Horns, former Longhorn who transferred out to Nevada. Still got love for him. He's a great special teamer at Texas, and I think that's what he's ultimately going to be in the NFL. Listed as a safety. We're going to see him compared among corners here in a moment, but yeah, this is insane stuff. Did everything as well, which is a rarity nowadays, it seems. 4.4 140 with a 1.5 210. 41.5-inch vert, a broad jump at 10.8. And then you can see the agility testing, 4.03 in the short shuttle, and still 18 reps of 225. Keaton Crawford, dude, what a performance. That's elite explosiveness among corners, elite weight among corners, even though he's not tall. This would look a little bit different among safeties. Elite speed, elite agility. Keaton Crawford's going to be a really good special teamer. And his athleticism, maybe he got something there in the nickel long term if you can try and develop him, but he's going to be a really good special teamer. And then Caleb Ransaw, corner from Tulane. That's great as well. 5'11", close to 200, 30 and 3/4-inch arms with a 4.3 340, 1.5 210, but a 40-inch vert, a 10.9 broad jump, and still 16 reps of 225. I'm not super impressed by a bench, or I guess I'm impressed, but I'm not super worried about a bench from a corner, but all the rest looked great. And that's still a very good bench at 197 pounds. That's incredible. 99th percentile, or just about 40 at 4.33. Weight among corners is still really good, close to 200. And then the explosiveness, obviously, was just phenomenal overall. Ransaw, he's going to be a good, potential day 2 pick, as is Darian Porter from Iowa State. He's still learning to play corner. This is a former wide receiver, which is a popular transition nowadays if you can't catch. 6'3", 195. This is going to be one of the best RAS scores that you're likely to see. 4.3 flat 40 with a 1.49 10-yard split on 195 pounds. 36.5-inch vert, 10.11 broad jump, and then a 4.04 20-yard shuttle. A 6.71 3-cone at 6'3", just under 200. Unreal. About 99th percentile height among corners, 75th percentile weight, 72nd percentile vert is like the one downfall of his testing, and that's not even bad at 6'3", or 6'2 and 7/8. Everyone always asks how to read height, by the way they do it. It's always feet, inches, and then eighths. So 6 foot flat, 2 inches, 7/8. So just under 6'3". Elite speed, 4.3 flat is about 99.5 percentile there. Elite short shuttle, N3 cone. Really just unbelievable performance for Darian Porter. I keep saying unbelievable performance, but I mean, this is a 999 unofficial RAS score out of 10, which 10 being the best of all time. Likely going to go day 2. Got big time potential and obviously is a big time athlete. As is Marcus Siegel from Kansas State. I don't really know where this came from. I didn't expect him to test quite this well. Obviously has been watching the Kansas State DBs over the past couple of years. I guess when Texas was in the conference, but obviously they've got a couple of pretty good DBs in this group, in this year's class, and even had some transfer out. But Siegel came out, ran 4.37 with a 1.5 10-yard split, 38-inch vertical jump with a 10.10 broad jump. That's a 9.53 unofficial RAS score, 52 out of 1095 free safeties from 87 in 2025. 99th percentile 40, really good explosiveness, solid day 3 option. Billy Bowman Jr. from Oklahoma is another guy that's got a chance to go on day 2. I think he's probably a day 2 pick. He's short, he's small, 5'10", only 192. So some of the things you can say about Andrew Makuba that kind of bring him down as a prospect, they're both very good players. Bowman tested obviously a little bit better. 4.42 in the 40 with a 1.52 10-yard split, vert at 35.5. and a broad jump at 10.3. 17 reps at his size of 225 is very, very good. Obviously, the size is really holding him back here, but really, really good in the on-field drills as well as a blazing fast 40. And yes, we saved the best for last. Don't have to go far to find Nick Eamon-Warry. Just look at the top of any single one of the testing that he was a part of, and he is at the top of the list for any position at the combine. 6'3", 220 is elite size with 32.5-inch arms. 4'3", 840. 149 10-yard split at 220. A vert at 43 inches. And a broad jump at 11 feet, 6 inches. Still posted 20 reps of 225. Nick Eamon-Warry is the most athletic free safety, strong safety, linebacker prospect of all time. If you compare him at any one of those positions, cornerback probably as well, Eamon-Warry is 1. It's a 10. 6'3", 98th percentile among strong safeties. 220, 95th percentile. 43 inches in the vert, 99th percentile. 99.8. Broad jump, 11.6, 99.9 percentile. And then comes out and runs a 4.3, 840. That'd be 99th percentile. And his 10-yard split was not a 1.56. This is a projected, unofficial 10-yard split. It was actually way better than that at a 1.49. Absolutely saved the best for last. It's one of the most athletic players we will ever see and have ever seen, literally have ever seen, in the history of the combine. Let me show you this. Nick Eamon-Warry would be a 10, but technically number 2 behind Calvin Johnson via RAS score. He would be a 10 at wide receiver, a 10 at corner, a 10 at free safety, and a 9.87, a 9.87 at linebacker, because he'd be a little bit light. It's just incredible, dude. I mean, this is the most incredible combine we've probably ever seen. That's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit more about these players and appreciate some of the testing like I do. And I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.